Hello, I'm bekkiflaherty, and this week I'm going to be showing you how to use this trailing floral template to make this pattern here. This template is the fifth one of a set of 6 which you can find in my Etsy store, but if you want to have a go for free first, you can get this template for free from my Pattern Maker's Toolkit and follow along with that one, swapping in the colours and flower shapes we'll be using today. For accessibility, this video has fully edited subtitles, and I've also set up timestamps, so if you're a regular here and want to skip straight to the beginning of the tutorial, please go ahead and do that now. This is a more advanced level tutorial, so if you've never made a pattern using the diamond method in Procreate before, then I suggest checking out this video first, as it covers everything in much more detail and at a slower pace than I'll be going today. I also have lots of beginner-friendly pattern tutorials on my channel too, which will help you get started with this way making pattern repeats. This next part is very important. You may be used to dragging and dropping files into Procreate, but if you do it with PSD files, it will flatten all the layers, so be sure to import it the way I'm about to show you. Also, yes, the thumbnails are white and look empty, but I'll explain why in a second. So let's get started today. From the gallery screen here, we're going to bring in our canvas, so I'm going to go to Import and bring in canvas number 5. All of these canvases, they will show as like there's nothing in the file, but when you open the file up and go into your layers panel and turn the sketch on, the template is right there, I promise. The reason I do it this way and save it with that turned off, it makes for a smaller file size if you've just got white showing on the screen, and it means I can upload them to Etsy in one single zip file rather than having to either give you a download link on a PDF or put them on separate downloads. So yeah, don't panic when you initially download the files and all you can see is blank thumbnails. The template layers are all there, they're just turned off here in the layers panel. So you will see this does have all the layers that you'll be familiar with if you've followed one of my pattern tutorials before, or if you have the Pattern Maker canvas. We're going to be drawing everything in black, duplicating that to make the blue around the outside. And we're going to start here in the sketch folder. If you're following along with the free template, above your template layer, you're going to need an empty diamond like this. So add a layer above your template, and this is just if you're using the free template. If you're using this canvas, obviously you've got one in there. You just need to draw a diamond that goes all the way off the edges on all 4 sides. It doesn't need to be perfect, doesn't need to be precise. This one definitely isn't. It just needs to go all the way off the edge so that you can transform things around. And it'd probably be better if it was a bit thinner than this one, but that's what you'll need to do to follow along. I'm going to delete that one now because we do have a nice neat one on this layer. So I'm going to use another of the floral stamps from this set that comes with the trailing floral templates, and I'll use this flower here to stamp in these big ones. And I'm going to do it on a layer above the diamond, on an empty layer, so that I can move things around if I want to without having to chop up the edges of the diamond here. So I'm just going to stamp one of these into each of these big circles. And it's just the black ones we need to work with, not the blue ones. And these all swirl around kind of in that direction. I'm going to swap some of these around. So I'm going to select this one with freehand select, tap to transform, and I'm going to flip it vertically so that these swirl the other way, just for a little bit of extra interest with this one. And I think I will also do this one here as well. And then I'm going to add some in these as well, so I'm going to choose a different flower for these smaller ones, although you could just do a smaller version of this one if you wanted to, or you can obviously freehand your own florals. The whole point with these is that you can change it, make it different each time you do it, and use these templates over and over again to make infinite patterns. So then I'll stamp one of these into each of these smaller black circles, not forgetting this one down here, and then with all of those in place I can then merge that down with the diamond. If you want to also practice and lay out your stem shapes in this sketch layer, you could do that now. I'm going to just freehand these as I go when we come to do the illustrating up here. So I'm going to duplicate this now, turn on snapping and magnetics, and I'm going to drag it down here and snap it into this corner here. You'll see the orange lines, and you'll see the flowers from up there are filling these gaps down there. Then we can duplicate this again, drag it up and snap it into this corner. Duplicate the bottom layer again, drag it up and snap it over to the right there. And last of all, this one, and snap it down there. Then these top 4 layers here, we can pinch and merge those together, and I'm going to tap and invert the colours so that we can see what's what. So when we come to do our illustrating, we're just going to draw everything that is a black dotted line and the orange flowers that we've put inside these black circles. Everything that's a blue dotted line we'll make by duplicating, and we don't need to draw these blue flowers either. So we can get started with the illustrating now. I'm going to turn on my pattern layer, add a layer above this marker here, and I'm going to start with the stems. And with all these templates, there'll be one stem that's marked out in green. That's this one here. And this is the one that kind of makes it a trailing one, and this is the one that you'd need to take a bit of extra care with, merging it back up with itself on the other side. So I'm going to use my tracing crayon, and I'm going to turn the stabilization up on this one. That gives me a bit more smoothness as I'm working down here. So I'll use this green colour for the stem. And I'm going to start up here, bring it down here, following this line as closely as I can, just on the green bits. And then this part here will be that part there. So if we bring this down there, we can then edit the end of this line to merge in perfectly with that. So I'm going to add a mark going completely off from one side of the corner to the other there, and also down here. Then we can duplicate this layer, tap to transform, and snap it down and into this corner until you have those orange lines there. Then you can zoom in and see how this is lining up. That's actually looking kind of okay. I could leave that as it is, but I'm going to show you how to fix it if yours wasn't looking like that. So on the layer with this part on it, if yours was kind of going off here and wasn't lining up properly, you can erase this line back a bit and then redraw it to merge it in with this one. Like that. So now you'll have this continual line that will just flow throughout your pattern, and that's what makes this a trailing floral. If we duplicate this layer again and then snap this one up into this corner, you'll see now we've got that continual trailing line across the canvas. I'm going to undo that last one, but I'm going to leave this one in place down here because it's going to be useful to leave that there to merge these leaves in with it. But what I might do is just invert the colours on that so I know which one's which. And I will erase this one. I'm also going to duplicate this and bring it down here because, as you can see, this line needs to merge in with that one there. So if we duplicate this, tap to transform, and I'm going to snap it down into this corner. Again, checking I've got those orange lines there. And then we've got that in place there to be able to merge that with. So now I can invert the colours on that one as well. And now we can just draw in all of these other black lines on our green layer here. And with this one, we can just carefully merge it in there with that one there. This one here, also we need to merge in down there, so let's draw this one in. Do this one as well, and then I'll just go ahead and put all the rest in. So then once all of our stems are in place, I always forget one. It's always one I'll forget. Anyway, when they're all in place, we're going to add some leaves underneath. So come down to the pattern layer, add a layer above, and I'm going to turn the stabilization back down on my tracing crayon for this part, and we'll use this blue colour here to do the leaves. Then we can fill all of these in with colour drop. And then to fill in all of these gaps all in one go, this is how we're going to do this. And we'll be using this for all of the shapes that we fill throughout this tutorial. So I'm going to duplicate this layer, tap up here on adjustments and go to Gaussian blur. I'm going to put a blur of 3% on this. Then I'm going to hide the layer. And then with this hidden layer selected, tap on our select tool. We want automatic and tap somewhere which is outside a leaf shape. And then you want to adjust your threshold until it comes in past the edge of where you've drawn, but not past this edge we want to fill. Then we can invert it, and now we have this layer inside the shape selected. So we can add a layer, tap up here, and we can fill the layer. So what that's done is that's added a smaller layer of colour, enough to go past that line, and then we can pinch and merge all three of those together. Only merge them though if that layer was hidden. If this was still showing, then delete that one first or hide it and then merge them. So that's how we'll be filling all of the shapes for this tutorial. So now we get to do the fun part and start adding some flowers. So I'll start with these ones first. We'll add a layer above the leaves, and I'm going to make the middles this peach colour here. So I'm going to draw the flower middles first, and I'm going to make these ones and these ones the same colour. So let's draw circles for all of these. To make a perfect circle, you need to draw your circle, hold, and then tap, and then lift up, and that will snap to a perfect circle shape. Then we'll draw the petal shapes, so we'll do that on a layer underneath these, and I'll draw them in this pink colour to start off with. I'm going to ultimately have these flowers be a different colour to these ones, but so that I can save time on the shading and just shade on one layer, I'm going to draw all of the petals on the same layer and then put a clipping mask of colour over these ones afterwards. So I'll just trace over all of these flower shapes, and I might turn the sketch layer down. As I'm drawing these, I'm being careful to join the shapes up underneath if I hide these, so that when I fill, it doesn't spill out from bits that are left unjoined. So we'll come back and fill all of these later. Here I've just filled the layer after selecting the blurred layer. I've deleted the blurred layer, and before I merge this one down, I'm going to erase these bits where underneath they were quite close together, and so it's kind of resulted in this merged bit there. So with a small eraser, I'm just going to go in and put that definition back in there and check these ones as well. So yeah, with that fill method, if you've got shapes that are quite close together, it's always worth going and checking that you haven't got bits that have got merged. So now I can go and merge those two together. So now on a layer above this pink one, I'm going to clip it down, and I'm going to recolor these flowers into a lighter pink. So I'm going to choose this one here, colouring crayon, make it nice and big, and I'm just going to scribble over all of these smaller flowers. And doing it this way helps to keep layer numbers down, but also when we do the shading, it's going to mean we only need 2 shading layers as opposed to 4 to shade these petals. And I'm going to alpha lock the layer underneath, and I'm going to use this darker pink instead, I think, for these. So now we can add some line work to our flowers. So we'll collapse the pattern group and the sketch group, and we'll drag the sketch one above and change the blend mode of this to linear burn, and we can turn off this template here. So I think I'll use this same peach colour to do the line work on these. Where's our layers gone? There we go. So on a layer underneath these middle parts, I'm gonna, with my peach colour that we use for those and the line details brush, I'm going to put in this line work on this layer. And to do these little dots, I'm going to use my mini dot brush. So I'll go and repeat that for all of these pink flowers on this layer. Then we can add some of the details for this. So we'll do the bits underneath first. So we can add another layer here, and underneath that I'm going to use my tracing crayon for this, and I'm going to use this dark pink colour. And I'm just going to put a little touches of lines coming out here, and then just repeat that for all of these smaller pink flowers. So we're going to add a layer above this peach layer here, and I'm going to use the mini dot brush and the darker pink to do some dots around the outside like that, and then I'll add another layer above, and with the lighter pink and using the line details brush, I'm going to draw a circle in the middle, hold, tap and lift up to get a circle in there. And if I hide the sketch layer, you'll see that's what we're going for. So I'm going to repeat that for all of the flowers on this layer. So that's all of our line work done now, and we're ready to add some shading. So I'm going to hide the sketch layer completely now, and you can also get rid of these. So we'll work our way up from the bottom, and we'll add a layer above the leaves, make it a clipping mask, and we'll change the blend mode to colour burn and the opacity to 40%. I'm going to use this 50% grey colour here, and I'm going to use a gradient texture brush, and I'm just going to add some darker colour to the bottoms of these leaves, and then we're going to add some lighter colour to the tops of them. So go back down to your leaves layer, add a layer which will get clipped in between, and we'll make the blend mode on this colour dodge and 40%. Then we'll add a touch of that lighter colour to the tops of the leaves there. And this is the principle for how we're going to do all of the shading for this pattern. We'll be using colour burn 40% to do the darker colour, and colour dodge 40% to do the lighter colour. Then I'm going to grab my speckles brush, and I'm just going to scribble over both of these layers, and that's going to just add a little bit of extra texture and speckle to the leaves. So both of those shading layers I've scribbled over, so we've got some darker specks of the darker colour and then some lighter specks of the lighter colour there. For the stems, I'm going to add a layer, make it a clipping mask, and we'll try colour burn 40% for this one. 39% is also fine. And I'm going to use this subtle texture brush from the Floral set here that comes with these canvases, and I'm just going to scribble over, and you'll see that just adds that subtle texture to it there. So I'll undo that and then do all of this in one go. And that's just added a little bit of texture so the stems match in with the texture on the leaves now. Then we come to the flower petals, and like I said, we can use one shading layer to do all of these, even though they're two different colours. And that's the great thing about using colour burn and colour dodge. It will always match to whatever is underneath. So we've got this layer of lighter pink here clipped down over them. We add a layer above that, make it a clipping mask, and we'll do colour burn 40% for this one. And we've still got our light grey colour. I'll grab the gradient texture brush, so we can add shading to this as well as these ones here. We can do it all on the same layer. So I think I might switch to the smaller brush actually. So I'm just going to add some darker colour coming out from the centres of these petals, and then on these ones I'm going to drag this pink line work layer underneath that as well. So that's this one here. If I drag that underneath this colour burn layer, I can shade over all of that, and that will darken both the pink and the petal underneath. So I'm going to repeat that for all of the flowers on this layer and add the darker shading coming out from the middle. And now I'm also going to drag this layer here with the line work. I'm going to drag that underneath this one as well, so that that can benefit from that slight darkening of colour underneath it as well. So now we want to add some lighter touches to the edges, so we'll add a layer underneath the colour burn one and make this one colour dodge 40%, and we can add some lighter colour to the edges of these petals here, and then also to the tops of these ones as well. Like that. So again, I'm going to go and repeat that for all of the flowers on this layer. And then same as we did with the speckles texture on these, I'm going to, over each of these colour burn and colour dodge layers, grab the speckles and I'm going to draw over there to get a little bit of extra texture in there. You can see we get that extra detail on there. Now we've got the flower centres to do, so we'll add a layer above those, make it a clipping mask, and this one will be colour burn 40%, which means we are making it darker. So grab the gradient texture small, and I'll just add a darker touch to the edges of these. Because this is quite a light colour, you might want to bring the opacity of this up a bit. Maybe try like 80%. That might work better for these, and then we'll use it to do these ones as well. Then we'll go back down to the peach middles layer again, add another layer above, make this one colour dodge 40%, and we'll just add that lighter touch to the top of these using the slightly smaller brush size, and then increase the brush size and then do these ones as well. And then, like we did with the line work, dragging it underneath so it benefits from that shading, we can grab these two layers here, which is the pink dots and the lighter pink circle, and we can drag those underneath, and then they'll benefit from that shading as well. Then we'll add that speckles texture to each of these, and then we are almost done. So now we're ready to build out this pattern tile. So then we need to turn the pattern marker off, and we can collapse this group, turn our background colour off, swipe down with 3 fingers and tap copy all. We can turn our pattern off, put the background colour back in, come up to the top here, swipe down again and tap paste. And that's put a flattened copy of all that in there for us. We've already got these marks going off the corners, so now we can use this to build out the rest of our tile. So we'll duplicate this layer, tap to transform, and drag this down here, snapping it into the corner there. Duplicate the bottom layer again, snap that into the top corner there. Duplicate the bottom layer again, and drag it over here and snap it into this corner. And then last of all, duplicate one last time and snap it into this corner down here. Before we merge any of these layers together, we need to check the layer order on here, because as you can see with this one, this stem needs to be behind this flower down there. So where's our main one? So it's this bottom corner here. This one needs to go underneath, and then all the other layers can go in any order, just so long as this bottom corner one is underneath there. So then we need to erase these marks off each of those layers. So let's grab the eraser and get those off, and the 2 off the corners on the main pattern layer, and then that one off this layer here, and then we can merge all of those together. Let's choose a different background colour. I'm going to go for this dark blue, and then just maybe make it a little bit darker actually. Let's try that one, which on your palette will be this one up here. So that's our finished pattern tile, and using this diamond repeat method means that you won't get those gaps showing when you upload to Spoonflower, but it's always good to do a test before we export. So to do that, we're going to swipe down with 3 fingers and copy all. Swipe down again and tap paste. So now we've got a flattened version of what would be the tile that we export. Tap on this layer here, add a layer, and we're going to add a colour fill layer in a contrasting colour. Normally we work with lighter patterns and we use a black one, but because this is already a dark pattern, we'll use a white colour for this. So we'll tap fill layer there. And then on our pattern layer, we'll tap up here to transform, and we're going to drag this up and snap it into this corner, and we'll see 1800 pixels there. Then we can duplicate this, snap it over to the side and make sure that that seam is looking okay there. Nothing suspicious going on there. So we can merge those 2 together, duplicate, tap to transform, and snap that down to the bottom, and again just zoom in and check that that's looking okay there. So you can find the template to make this pattern plus 5 others in my Etsy store, as well as the original Pattern Maker canvas and brush set, which has got all the drawing brushes I've used today. If you're a Pattern Maker Toolkit member, then you'll get 10% off everything in my Etsy store. The Pattern Makers Toolkit is kind of like a Patreon group, except it's free. You get access to all the resources in the Pattern Makers Toolkit on my website, including those I make for Skillshare classes, early access to some of my YouTube tutorials and drawing prompts, discounts in my Etsy store, and 1 new freebie exclusively via email every month. All the links are in the description, and don't forget to subscribe here if you want to see more pattern tutorials like this every week. That's all from me. Have fun, stay creative, and I will see you next time.